We're talking chicken with business editor Richard Southern, who joins us now. One of the most popular and controversial fast food chains in the U.S. They've hatched a plan to come here to Toronto. It is Chick-fil-A, Melissa, very popular in the U.S. This is a chain known for its fried chicken sandwiches. It's done very well throughout the United States, and now it's going to open a location in Toronto. We don't know the exact location yet, but this is going to be its first international restaurant. It's going to open next year, and they're planning 15 across the GTA in the coming years. But this chain is controversial. I want to show you some of the past controversies with this chain. Back in 2012, it donated millions of dollars to fund groups that fund conversion therapy, anti-gay conversion therapy, giving money to these groups. They also gave money to groups that opposed the fight for marriage equality. As well, I want to show you a quote from its owner, Dan Cathy. He, in 2012, said, quote, "I think we are inviting God's judgment on our nation when we shake our fist at him and say, we know better than you as to what constitutes marriage. And I pray God's mercy on our generation that has such a prideful, arrogant attitude to think we have the audacity to define what marriage is all about." This is a chain that takes its values from Southern Baptist beliefs. It doesn't open on Sunday, and it has this anti-gay past. Is it going to fly in Toronto? I asked one of its executives. Here's what he had to say.
We actually are excited to get up there. We're going to provide a welcoming environment for everyone who comes to our doors. We're going to treat people the way they'd like to be treated and treat everyone with honor, dignity, and respect.
I mean, do you subscribe to these beliefs too, sir?
You know, I'm not. What we've learned is we're going to focus on being a great restaurant company and serving our customers in our community. And that's what we're going to stay focused on.
I press you on it only because this is a city, again, that holds its LGBTQ rights very dear, one of the biggest pride parades in the world. And, you know, your history speaks for itself. And if you're asking people to come in the doors, I think you might need to give a little bit better explanation than the one you've given.
Yeah, and not only do we understand that, we appreciate it. Actually, several of us went up and attended the Pride Month and really were struck by this is a great example of people taking care of each other.
Will you then, will you say that you will no longer fund any anti-gay conversion therapy groups? Will you make that commitment today?
I can't make a commitment on behalf of the company. My understanding is that has already ceased.
So I don't know, Melissa, if that's going to cut it for a lot of people in the city. You know, we've seen them try and go into places like Chicago, and there's been a big pushback. We'll see what happens next year when Chick-fil-A opens in the city.
Well, they wouldn't just be taking a gamble. They would have done the research and figured they would be able to have a business here.
Sure, and I actually have talked to some food analysts today that say just that. Hey, they're going to be fine because people are going to go in and buy these popular chicken sandwiches. But, you know, maybe they're not. People aren't aware of the past, and that's it. It does speak for itself, and it's up to you whether or not you're going to want to eat there.
All right, Richard, you've got some stunning news from Air Canada. After announcing plans to end its deal with Aeroplan, the airline, they're now trying to buy back the popular points program.
Yeah. A shocker today, indeed. Air Canada teaming up with TD, CIBC, and Visa in a $2 billion deal to try and buy back Aeroplan. This comes just after a year after Air Canada said it would part ways with the program come 2020 when a contract ends with it. Air Canada planning to start its own program, and it confirms today it still is going to start its own program. It wants to buy Aeroplan to allow for a seamless transfer of miles from one program to another. Now, ever since Air Canada said it was breaking away from Aeroplan a year ago, stock in the parent company of Aeroplan is down 70%. Melissa, some analysts have wondered whether or not Air Canada only made this announcement to drive down the value of the stock and therefore buy the company at a discount. It's also possible that Air Canada is responding to news from Aeroplan last Friday. We actually had the executive right here on City News. They're planning to start their own airline to fly their loyalty members around. So maybe Air Canada saw that and said, hey, we better snap it up. Whether or not it's good for consumers, we don't know. We don't know what the point conversion would be. It is more loyalty programs, though, in the hands of fewer people if this deal happens.
I know people who collect those loyalty points, they watch them closely. They know what their value is, and they'll shop around for their best deal.
Yeah, and a lot of people were rushing to use them before 2020, and maybe now you won't have that rush if this deal goes ahead.
Amazon, they're planning to open another big distribution center right here in the GTA.
Absolutely. It's going to be in Caledon, and it's going to open up in a few years' time, and it's actually going to create 700 full-time jobs. This is what Amazon calls a fulfillment center. So it's where they box everything up and ship it out after you've ordered it. It would be, I think, the sixth such center in Canada. Of course, we're waiting for word on Amazon's second headquarters. Yeah. Toronto's still on that list, and they said they're going to make a decision before year's end, Melissa.
Is that delayed, by the way? Should we have heard already what the decision was on that?
No, we actually had Mayor Tory on here yesterday, and he said that the committee from Amazon said we will make the decision before the end of the calendar year 2018. So we don't know exactly when, but sometime before the end of December.
Okay, well, some sad news tonight from the automotive world as one of its business leaders passes away.
Yeah, Sergio Marchionne passing away at age 66. This came just days after he stepped down as CEO of Fiat Chrysler. He passed away from complications of shoulder surgery. He was very much credited with saving Fiat in 2004, and then 2008 rolled around, the financial crisis. It merged with Chrysler, and he pretty much saved that automaker. Now, Marchionne was born in Italy in 1952, but moved to Toronto in 1966, earned a law degree from the Osgoode Hall University, known for his many shots of espresso and cigarette packs every day, but also known for speaking his mind and for his keen business sense. Again, 66 years old, unfortunately.
And we'll stick with the automotive industry. General Motors has issued a profit warning, and it's all due to Donald Trump's tariffs.
Yeah, the cost of aluminum and steel is rising, and as a result, General Motors said, hey, our costs are going to rise and our profit as a result might fall going forward. And it said it made to raise prices to make up for that shortfall. General Motors stock was down 4.6% today. Melissa.
Well, if I've learned anything from you, Richard, is that people like their chicken sandwiches and they also like their nostalgia.
Yeah.
And the best-selling computer of all time is making a comeback in miniature style.
It's the Commodore 64. Do you remember this thing? We were
blast from the past.
Really, I know. Unbelievable. Best-selling computer of all time, I think. They're coming out with a miniature version of the Commodore 64. It's a 50% size replica. It's going to come preloaded with 64 classic Commodore 64 games. It's going to have a joystick, and it's going to be plug-and-play ready. It's also going to have computer capability with Commodore 64 Basics. You can actually develop your own games on it, which is pretty interesting. Available for pre-order now. Comes out in October. Going to sell for $90. Could be a hot seller for Christmas as everyone, again, looks to cash in on that nostalgia.
Definitely. I know people are hearing just that music that's playing. It's bringing back memories.
You used to have to put in the
Richard.
cassette tapes to play. Can you imagine that?
Yes,
a cassette tape?
I
It's
know,
so
I know.
archaic.
Well, thanks again for that, Richard. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks.
Now, let's go back to our top story. Let's go over to Janella.